This Friday, we are now going to talk however we want, to say whatever we want on this show, because we have a lawyer. Wakuje watushike.
Wajaribu tutushike. No, sio kushika
wajaribu.
Yes. It's an attempt.
Danstan Omari, advocate of the High Court, is our guest. Good morning, Danstan.
Wakikuja mtajua wana nguvu. Lakini wathubutu.
Watajua malenge si mboga. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much. I'm at the operation theater at the Situation Room.
Kabisa.
Pale. Sawa.
Huyu mtu anaitwa CT has the day's proverb. This week's proverbs are from Eritrea.
Today's our final day, and this is the final proverb.
So give us a recap of the whole thing about Eritrea.
You know, Eritrea is a very interesting country. There are those who argue that Eritrea, Djibouti, at some point or the other were part and parcel of Ethiopia. Okay? And you will find that if you look at the community that comprises Eritrea, you're talking about the Tigrenya, you're talking about other small communities. They are communities that are also found in Ethiopia. But their de facto independence was in 1991. De jure. You know, when you have a lawyer here, you must throw around these words to show that you also was in 1993. Okay? Now, the working languages, there are three working languages. They are Tigrinya, Arabic, and English. Okay? Now, the Tigrinyans are 50%. That's a community. The Tigray, different community altogether, 30%. Saho, 40%. Afa, 4%. These same communities, you can actually find them represented in Ethiopia as well. Okay? Now, the one country that attempted to colonize Ethiopia but didn't succeed, the same country that tried to spread its tentacles to Eritrea, and that is the Italians. So, if you go to Eritrea, more specifically, if you go to Asmara, which is the capital, you will find a lot of Italian architecture.
Yep.
A lot of it. But of interest is what is historically there with regards to their religion. Civilization visited this place a long time ago. Long. More than most civilizations that we have in the Western world. And the remnants of that civilization still exist. Remember, they have their own alphabet. They have their own script for writing. Now, when you have a community that is that developed, it tells you just how far they've been at this thing.
Yes.
Okay? But they have a unitary government, meaning they have one political party. It's a managed democracy. This thing of too many parties confusing people and generally bring about them, they don't have that one. And they have a president. It's called Isaias Afwerki. Their population, now this is interesting. When I did research on the population, I was given a range. I have never seen this. The range is 3.8 million to 6.7 million. That's the range of the population. So they're telling you, you decide. You know, what would you like it to be?
On a good day,
it could be 6.7. On a bad day, it could be, that sort of thing. Anyway,
the proverb
for the day: dreamers remember their dreams when they're in trouble.
Dreamers remember their dreams
when they're in trouble. When poverty visits you,
you remember the dream.
You'll remember that dream.
Dream or vision?
Same thing.
Okay. Amanyota.
Why do you think Martin Luther King had a dream?
Because he was in trouble.
There was a lot of trouble then. And the dream was something that would be completely different from what they were experiencing at that point in time. Yes.
Wakili, is this country in trouble?
It is an understatement to say that the country is under trouble. It's a furnace. The volcano has erupted. The Holocaust is here. Disaster in itself.
Armageddon.
Where?
Why? Why do you say so?
We gave a clueless team.
We, tulisema
to
tushikwa,
run.
lakini si ati hivyo.
Si ati
Sasa we invite pro watu hapa tukuja tushikwe tu hivyo.
Angalau tumalize show.
We entrusted the country to those who have no capacity to manage the country. We are expecting from them what they have no way to provide. So we'll have to live with that reality for 5 years. If you give to somebody to manage what they do not understand what it is, then you don't expect any result. And that is why from one turmoil to another turmoil, from one furnace to another furnace, from one misstep to another misstep, we are totally praying very hard. You know, this country started with the fifth regime started with prayers, heavy prayers, daily. Everything was said that the divinity will provide the answer. Today, it has been reduced to a Sunday for 1 or 2 hours, which means that the space, the divinity space that we wanted to provide the solution has abandoned us, because we have not lived to what we told the people that we shall do. And once the divinity leaves, then you are seeing calamity after calamity. The country is jumping, hopping from one problem to another. Look at a sequence of events within 2 weeks.
Okay.
Floods are here. Floods of rain. The floods come in terms of exam problems. Students are not getting the right exams. Floods are hitting the Kirima, people being evicted. Floods are hitting the Portland guys who are being evicted without any recourse all over. Floods are destroying roads when you have been told that there will be no El Nino. Everything is now flooded. I don't think.
How does that lead back to the lack of capacity for those in leadership?
Eric, let me tell the Kenyans that this is the first time that we have a head of state who was a PhD holder in State House. When you compare the first head of state at State House was a carpenter. That was the late Jomo Kenyatta. When you compare the second one, it was a basic teacher, Daniel Moi. The third one, a Makerere trained graduate.
London School of Economics.
The fourth one, a political scientist. The fifth one, a PhD holder.
Scientist.
A scientist. But when you look at
Plant ecology.
all the other five, the people, all the other four, their advisors, their political advisors, their cabinet was solid. If any cabinet minister walked on the streets of Kenyatta Avenue or Mombasa Road next to Standard Group, every Kenyan knows them. Today, you look at the composition of the cabinet, is a concentration of political rejects that do not understand the dynamics of the country. So the president has the vision. None of his people understands that issue, and that is why there is a problem. Countries are run by cabinet. Countries are run by the technocrats, the directors. When you look at the composition of the cabinet and you look at the compositions of the PS, you look at the composition of the top parastatal heads, based on the qualification, because the biggest qualification for those jobs originally was Article 232 of the Constitution, merit. Under the Kenya Kwanza government, the best qualification is about shareholding. The best qualification is about loyalty to political sloganeering.
Come on, Wakili. Are you saying they don't have merit? They don't have professional merit? They don't have the background that suits sitting in a high level of office, like a principal secretary? Really, Mheshimiwa?
I have the qualification of being a lawyer, but I do not have the qualification of being a journalist. Putting me in the position of a journalist, I will be functionally literate. And what I'm saying, the people who have been put there have no capacity to understand the nitty-gritty of the position they are holding.
How do you know?
They might. The answer
You're
is
a lawyer, after all.
the answer is very clear. What is the end result? If you are claiming you have capacity, show us the results. The prices of food is what shows the results. Working for government, the referendum is the results in terms of school fees. Working for government as a decision maker, the answers are released when the price of fuel is going where it is. Working for government or steering the government is assessed in terms of what are people saying. So if out of 55 million Kenyans, everybody is complaining within 1 year and a half, is there any work being done? You look at...
one could argue that there's work being done. Also, one could argue that probably the 55 million Kenyans who may be feeling like work is not being done is also not a correct representation.
They are the ones who voted.
Yeah, and no census has been done to
And they are the ones...
they're thinking.
What I'm saying, when you look at the type of public engagement when this government came in, it was every day. Political engagements. And they could not work with money to meet the people. Today in Kericho, for you to go to meet your own people, you must carry billions to show them that please don't boo. Please don't stone us. This money is yours. Originally, they could go with the Bible. Originally, they could go with people on the streets. People are waiting for them. It has become a booing game. When you see the CS being booed in Bomet, Chirchir, it follows with Murkombet being booed in Kabarnet. Then now, all of a sudden, the tax that people are collected, others have no food to eat. Few have billions carrying from choppers as handouts. It is a serious paradox. So the referendum is out. The country is burning. Not fire, but the country is burning in terms of the cost of living, in terms of where we are going. And that is why my indictment that probably the president and his team did not understand what the term vision means. It is a slogan to them. Bottom up was a slogan. Because a slogan has no way of actualizing that slogan. But a vision is well thought. Compare the vision of Kenya Kwanza, the bottom-up vision, whatever it is, and compare the vision 2030 of the late Hayati Mwai Kibaki. It was structured. You could see it. You could feel it. The steps towards achieving that were very clear, elaborate, tested, and timeline set. Here, we have perfected the vision of lamenting city, or blame city because of this, or blame Eric because of this. So to me, we are in such a big quagmire that we need to rethink ourselves.
Do you think, Wakili, that this revelation, as you see it, is also something that the executive and those around him also see? Do you think, because I would venture that it's not possible that everybody sees things maybe going in a southerly direction, but that those who are in the driver's seat cannot see. Everybody else in the car seems to be able to say we're headed to an accident, but the person driving can't see. Do you think that's really possible? Do you think that the president is aware that things are not good and that he's doing everything he can to kind of steer this vehicle in the right direction? What would you say about that?
The president is 100% aware that things are not going on well. But what can the president do when he's a captive?
Of whom?
The political shenanigans around him, the political arrangement that brought him to power, the foreign... there are two types of captives. One, our president is a captive of the foreign masters, the IMF, the World Bank, and those who are saying this is the agreement that was signed. In a marriage, there is what we call the prenuptial agreements. The president signed prenuptial agreements to come to power with those who funded him, with those who supported him. Those prenuptial agreements are with foreigners. They are with those who say they are the shareholders in this company, to the exclusion of a very serious constituency, a big constituency of this country. So the president cannot maneuver. The president, I'll tell you for free, will find it very hard to sack, because it is not. It was a negotiated agreement. If you sack my person, then I pull my forces. The conglomeration of several parties that form Kenya Kwanza. The president, if you want to see the reality that our president is under serious problem, is when he tried to start a UDA party. Merge all these parties, let us have one party. It became hot. Within a very short time, he took off. That story ended. Because there is no common vision between those people called government. These are a bunch of people, individuals who have no common ideology, who have no common vision, who have no common purpose.
What brought them
what brought them there was the fear that President Uhuru Kenyatta's project, then called Raila Odinga, was going to take power. After Raila Odinga moved and Uhuru left, these guys, that's why I say, that time their clue was targeted at Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Now that the target is not there, they become clueless. There is no common enemy they are fighting. And that is why today, because there is no common enemy fighting, you see Cherargei and Murkomen from the same region, they are fighting each other. They have started destroying each other one by one. And if Raila Odinga keeps quiet for 2 weeks, these guys, you'll see them carrying placards against each other. You've seen what happened to the chief whip in parliament. He's being whipped by the UDA members of parliament, Osoro. He's not being whipped by ODM. So the tide has become internal hemorrhage. They're destroying each other because they did not have anything binding. No glue was holding them. The set has broken. It can't hold anymore.
If your hypothesis is true, what would you have them do? You know, it's easy for us to, lament about a situation. Misery loves company, as they say. We all get together, and the worse we say it, more we talk about it, and the worse it seems. We kind of become comfortable in that position where it's easy to complain, it's easy to worry, and not taking away from what makes it so difficult. We're not taking away from that situation. But what would we have them do? Because what you're saying is that government and executive is visionless, then inadvertently rudderless, and then we're really not going anywhere. It's just a big blue sea and we're just going wherever. What would you have them do?
Talking to a wall is the biggest problem that anybody rational will continue doing daily. The noise that is coming from Kenyans is sufficient for anybody at the top of the mountain to listen. But do they have the ears to listen? Do they have the capacity to calm down and say, we were wrong? Please, let us work together. It is today they say this, tomorrow they say this. The chest thumping is a big problem, because when you form a government with a false notion that you have tyranny of numbers in terms of representation, you have tyranny of the brains, you have tyranny of the political machinery, you exclude everybody. You only have a select few. That's the problem. I know Eric will tell you that I don't go to church most of the time, but occasionally I appear. But the Bible and the Quran, my good city, says that calm down, let us discuss. That is the only way we will go. This government must come back to its own people. Listen to what the people want. When people are saying the only solution for us not to die because of hunger, bring subsidies. The government is telling you the only solution, tax. You must pay tax. You must give us, we must give you a house. Who has asked for a house?
Danstan Omari is a lawyer. He's our guest this morning. We are looking at the state of the nation. Wakili is here today. He is projecting feelings of depression, despair, dejection, and everything. It's all just looking very gloomy for you. And again, I also bring you in here, City. Is this what people are expressing, how people are expressing themselves now, a year after an election? Is this new? Haven't we seen this in all previous elections?
We have.
After a year, there are those who, after the election, felt they lost the election, and so they were feeling the feeling of anger and loss.
So,
and then there are those who felt that they won the election, and were feeling very optimistic that things were going to get into a certain change in a certain direction. But the reality is, would things really change in that direction within 12 months to a point where those that actually felt so positive would continue that positivity going forward, or would it drop? Look at Kibaki's time, 1 year into it. So the same conversation. The then opposition leader Uhuru Kenyatta actually now standing up to say they are saying that they are fixing the economy. We are just hearing Kibaki's ministers telling us, oh, it was Moi who they left empty coffers, oh, this and the other. You have a job to do. Uhuru, when he came in, a year down the road, people are just wondering, this bromance story, can you finish the bromance and start working? It was the same kind of. Are we not in that?
Of interest, remember the late President Moi, Kibaki's inauguration was not marked with the inauguration only. There are people who hurled mud
at the late
president's vehicle, hurled mud. And the Moi must go chant. Hakiwani, with Moi, it didn't even take a year. Say, Moi was actually a better president. This guy, surely. Suddenly, and you saw it, when Moi appeared in public, my goodness.
People would come back and say,
yes. It's like he hit a new high of popularity. But then remember, this is strange. It was interesting because we've never had a president who won an election with the sort of votes Kibaki got. So that man was genuinely popular at that particular. He represented change.
Yes.
Now, President William Ruto and the narrative that his party had were representing the same change. They gave it a twist and a tinge. The haves versus the have-nots. It sold. People liked it. Come in the reality, they're realizing, my goodness, nothing has actually changed. Our situation.
As fast as we hope.
Yes, but now let me take you to independence, because this is a story that was told to me by my parents. That when we got independence, there are people who actually thought that the white people and everything they owned they would move and leave their property, and Africans would be given. Of course, that didn't happen. What happened was people who were qualified got jobs with the perks and the houses and the positions if you're a civil servant, and that's why civil service was a popular destination for a job in those days. That's what happens. If you don't have the qualifications, you just continue doing what you were doing before. Okay? Now, something that perhaps we haven't quite understood about change. The benefits are never immediate, and part of the reason is because if you look at how we understand progress and development, it has to be ensconced in an individual. Because development is not brought about by government forces, which is what they should. It's a person who brings development. Now, they may not tell you, but when they vote for you, they expect you to give them development. And most times you don't know what they have in mind. But there's something they call development which they want. Now,
personal interpretations of development.
Yes, and how it is represented for most Kenyans is if you have one of your own, a tribesperson of yours, a friend of yours, in a position of authority, then you feel development
has come.
Yeah, because you now know with this person there, and if we can just get there, usually it's not a problem. So we know, and there'll be so and so. He's so and so's cousin. If we just get to this person, our problem will be solved. I think we got this wrong with Kenyatta 1, and we've continued getting it wrong. Because those in leadership have never expressed to us, Kibaki tried, by the way, that this government belongs to you. You, the individual. So you don't need your own person for development to come to you. It'll come to you anyway.
Yep.
CDF tried to represent it when we brought in the new constitution with the counties, we're now trying to fix and cure it. Whoa, my friend, the counties have become a nightmare. They're worse. It's your own people, it's your own money, and your position is exactly the same. Now, if you build this up, give it time, pepper it a little bit, fry it a little bit, let air get into it, a president comes who is a serious evangelist and tells you stuff. And the words...
Paints the picture.
He paints the picture in words, and you can see freedom not coming. It's with you here. You can see it. And then you don't see it. And then when you look, you don't see it even more. You will forget that, like Uhuru, who had to contend with the new constitution, which no other president had, this president was contending with a drought. He was contending with all manner of things. Then he was contending with himself and his people and the politics he had brought into being. When this politics got into this situation, my goodness, what our brother and friend Danstan is talking about is real, because it's a clash. The reality that this government got in with required some very, very serious toning down and taking a completely different narrative. They began moving their vehicle in gear 5.
But how would you tone down and start changing a narrative against a people whom you've promised many things and who are already demanding? Day 2, after Ruto went to State House, the following morning when he woke up, things had changed. The hustler was waiting for his money. Everybody was waiting for...
He was.
This is it.
He was, Eric.
Now, how do you start now
what
turning that
happens
down and
is
saying
you've got goodwill. When you come in, you've got goodwill. That's the window when you can actually tell people bad things and they'll say, okay, you said this, but they need to see. Okay, remember what we saw. There were judges who had been taken back and forth with Uhuru. They said, no, judges ndani. We saw things happening, but that wasn't adequate. There's a president, I think it's called Chakwera. This gentleman who I believe is a man of God, a preacher, a bishop. Look at how he came in and he immediately toned down. He spoke and you could see. He was saying, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. Let me paint a picture. Imagine if the president had come and said, you know something, folks, this is a situation we find ourselves in, and my government is actually going to be representative of the dire situation that we are in. Okay? Let's talk of expenditure. Since this office is in the limelight, we are going to look for all government vehicles that have been left, and we are going to try and see if we can't revive them. And we mean all. And I am going to use all the vehicles I found here and revive the ones that I have. We are not buying new cars. Statement 1. You know that one hits you. They did the complete opposite. When you come to State House, if you get tea, it'll be tea, full stop. And maybe some water to drink. He would have set the tone. We all know the tone that was set by this government. That tone was a long rope. And Danstan is right. It's now beginning to hang them. Right now, you can't reverse it.
So, Akili, do you think that there are actually things that can be done at this point to salvage what you're calling an already detrimental situation? We're in the furnace, as you say, and things are burning to the ground. Is there something that can be done to save the situation? And what should that be?
If they're listening, and I know they're listening to the Situation Room, there are 4 things that can be done to completely transform the narrative now that is in the country. 1, the president must, and not tomorrow, today, Friday, sack all the incompetent people from cabinet, from positions of power, from positions of decision making, not reshuffling them, not deploying them elsewhere, because they have shown they cannot deliver. Number 2, the president must allow the organs of government created by the Constitution, those are the investigative arms of government, to take up their role. Remember, under Kibaki, taxes were not as much as what President Ruto is now collecting. But there was no coin disappearing. getting lost through corruption under Kibaki. That is why you saw development. This government is collecting almost 10 times.
Wakili, the way we are talking now is the way people were talking in 2003.
But we saw work.
Saying that there is money getting lost. Look at these new ministers, these newbies, these people who were working in the civil society just the other day. And now look at how lavishly they are living. They were just pointing to wastage.
They were talking. Kibaki gave the confidence of citizens. Citizens' arrest power came back. People could not bribe anywhere because they would call Kibaki directly. Government officers toned down. The opposite now that we have. There is more money being collected daily, but you don't see any form of development, any form of government services being offered.
What do you mean, any form?
Show us anything. Because when you talk about taxes, you only see the taxes in terms of Kenyans getting services. We saw Kenyans getting services under President Kibaki. We saw Kenyans getting, although mild, services under President Uhuru. This one, they need to show us where they are taking the money. The third issue is that the president needs to sit and work. Work means sitting behind a microphone as a journalist, as a news anchor. Read the news. If you are not here, the situation room cannot be had. In my village in Nyamira, the president has turned to be a tourist. And Kenyans are concerned that when do you sit and understand what is going? The president is an absent president. Third, the president seems to be ignoring very critical questions. President Ruto was handed over power by President Uhuru Kenyatta, and he was given Uganda as a trade partner. We have been trading with Uganda since time immemorial. Under the watch of the president, Uganda has moved to Tanzania. The impact on the economy of this country, all those towns from Mombasa.
Which Uganda has moved to Tanzania?
They are now using the Central Corridor. Parliament of Uganda passed a law to use Dar es Salaam as their port. The net effect on this country in the next 1 year, you will understand that things are bad. Uhuru saw this, negotiated with Museveni, and said, Museveni, let us give you an inland port at Maimayu. Don't move away. The first thing the President of the Republic of Kenya, President Ruto did is to revert many of the economic policies that had been captured in Vision 2030 by bringing a slogan called bottom up. So unless we go back to the Vision 2030, we are now bragging that we have Somalia. Don't worry, we can lose Uganda. We have Somalia. That's why I say those are cabinet people who have no clue the importance of Uganda in the country here.
I think Danstan, and that's why I started that conversation by saying sometimes we pick on small anthills, magnify them into volcanic mountains, and cloud out everything else. For example, saying that Uganda has moved, it hasn't. Yes, Parliament has passed that, but also Uganda had indicated that they were not going to use our pipeline. Would you say that Uhuru had also lost Uganda, the Uganda that Kibaki had given him?
We are judging those who will be judged.
It's because there's an activity, there's an event that's taking place here. What's a bigger picture? Would you say that is then the state of the country, that this is it, we have lost because the cabinet of Uganda sat and talked about oil importation and looking at options, and therefore we've lost because...
Can I give you a perspective?
Yeah.
If somebody, we normally call them tin...
City, where are you? What happened to your mic?
It's in front of my face.
Very good. Now.
Okay. We talk about the lenses through which we see things. If you are happy with someone or you are fond of them, you will easily excuse the things they do. Or you'll find reason to explain it away. If you're unhappy with someone, even when they smile at you, you'll say, why is this person snarling at me? And the person is actually smiling. The disappointment is a factor of expectations. Okay? And if you listen to the president, we're talking about President William Ruto, I listen and I feel this man actually wants to do good. I'm telling you my thoughts. He actually means what he's saying. But to connect what he wants to do and say and what he's actually doing, so you ask, what is the competing interest? And the competing interest is what we're discussing here. You appoint certain people. The competencies I'm not going to go into. And suddenly, things which ordinarily would appear to be straightforward, because the darling example I like is this issue of the airport. Why is the minister directing people to build the roof in the airport? And you have the Kenya Airports Authority.
Levels.
No, I'm asking, why is he going to inspect the Diani airport when there are people who are supposed to do that? His job is to cut ribbons.
Because Omari expects him to.
Precisely.
That's what Omari is judging as the competence of a minister.
Now, you see,
if the minister just sat back and, he was talking directly to the board of the Kenya Airports Authority, and the Kenya Airports Authority board was then dealing with the MD, and you don't hear the minister, Omari would be here saying, these ministers, the airport is leaking. Do you even hear? Do they even know?
Eric, that is precisely it, because the ministers have an opportunity. This is an example.
Yes.
The ministers have an opportunity to show what it is to run and manage a ministry. Okay? Now, from what I learned, we talk of Kibaki, what I learned from Kibaki and Kenyatta one, you don't really see them.
Yeah.
You don't even hear them. But man, things get done.
You are seeing results.
You will talk and talk and talk and talk. We always talk, and you're right. But things get done.
Eventually.
You saw them.
Yes.
Kenyatta one jailed ministers, jailed MP, jailed. And I am told the joke is the duties they were given were to cut grass at State House so that
Yes.
you could see them in the morning. And probably when he was having tea, would tell them, see, there are people he knew. So and so, come, let's drink tea.
But Wakili, I'm still on that issue here, and I'm saying, even when a fire is burning, there are certain things that you must do to either put out the fire or to reduce the severity of the damage that the fire will cause. And you started this off by saying that there's a fire and things are burning down. And those who've been given the positions of authority seem to not be sure how to put this fire out. But I think that we should be solution giving in a lot of the criticisms that we make. And because we say they're listening, you can take a cue from one or two things. And I'm still back to, what would we have the executive do beyond lining up a firing squad and saying, get out of office? Beyond that, what would we say ought to be done?
Simple. The city started with, was it a proverb?
Yes.
Let me go proverbial. The Nigerians have a story of a person who was going to get married. He bought a very expensive suit. He left the suit, went to collect the shoes. When he came back, he found the rat had eaten that suit.
Must have been gone for a while.
No?
Sorry, go ahead.
So he started looking for that rat for 2-3
Nigerian
days.
rats are fast.
Then one day, when he's coming back, he found his house on fire, burning. And running out of that inferno is that rat. He left the water can he was carrying, took up a machete, started chasing the rat. He ended up killing the rat, came back singing that I've taught this idiot a lesson, only to find the whole house is burned completely. That is the government of Kenya.
Okay.
It has not.
Who is the rat?
It has not known that Uhuru left. It is busy looking at those guys who ate my suit and lamenting. The answer is simple, and you asked me, my good sister, the solution is one: stop talking, sit, keep the flights to carry tourists, remain in office, get work done, own up that the instruments of government are in the hands of the current government, liabilities of loans to China to where must be paid by the government that is in place. Let them sit and work. It will not be, the solution is simple. Work with practical realities. Stop providing every day new promises. Stop every day the excessive spending that we are seeing. You do not say, I'm poor, but by conduct and implication, you are spending on lavishes. This country has no money. That one you know. But this country is spending on issues. Every day we are seeing a lot of expenditure that Kenyans are asking, is this relevant? Are we really poor? City has asked, we have imported or bought new cars to everybody. The convoys that are the entourages is terrible. You see, when the president goes to COP meeting and he's carrying more than 600 Kenyans, for what?
Was it 600?
To Dubai?
To Dubai.
700.
And nowadays,
State
all
has released a
meetings,
statement and said
Said
there
it
were
was not 700 there.
whatever it
They were
is,
50.
nowadays,
Yeah.
the digital era will proceed with any meeting virtually. What is the role of carrying people physically?
So you're saying, Wakili, just do your work, do your job.
Let them do their job, but they must have the capacity to understand that job. Put people who understand what the job entails and allow them to work.
What if they understand their work, but they're not being allowed to work?
The president the other day, when he was addressing citizens, he said he's shocked that some of his cabinet ministers do not understand their job. He understands more of what happens in state departments than them.
But what does that tell you?
That tells you that either one, he's micromanaging completely everything against Kibaki principle. Delegated power, authority to run the country. Or
As
two,
my
he has
translation of it,
accepted.
yeah.
He has accepted that the people he gave the jobs have no capacity and he's running the ministries himself.
I think the president just ought to realize the reality. In my opinion, it's just showing him, do not bring outsiders to run government. When there have been people in government who understand, he understands it because he has been in government. He would understand State Department because he's been in government for a long time. But now you've brought in a new PS. Well, sure,
You see, the president runs away and says he was never in government. For the 10 years under Jubilee, he was a passenger.
It's not 10 years.
According to him, all the blames he's saying, I was sidelined. Which means the president is admitting that the office of the deputy president, he never did any job there. Is he admitting
He wasn't assigned a job?
He was never assigned a job, and therefore it is now that he's learning everything.
Wakili, you come again. Okay. Don't leave until 10:15 like this, huh? Ndio tuone kama tunaweza tutatoka safely.
The defense will never arrest.
Okay.
They will arrest, we will release you.
Very
Don't
good.
worry about it.
Keep it here for more conversations.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.